Little PSA, if you have not read Chain of Gold, I highly suggest that you do, and I highly suggest that you don't watch this video because this video will contain spoilers for Chain of Gold as well as possible theories for Chain of Iron. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click out, come watch later when you're done, or keep on watching because we're gonna get into some stuff. So last week, Cassandra Clare not only dropped the cover for Chain of Iron, which is the second book in the Last Hours trilogy, she also revealed an official synopsis, which I don't think we were expecting. I know I wasn't expecting, and I have questions, I have theories, I am shook. I am Shadowhunter trash, so it's been a good week for me. So I was debating which way to start, either with the cover or the synopsis. So I think I'm gonna do a hybrid. So first, here is, as best as I can make it in a video format, the gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous cover of Chain of Iron. I've always been such a huge fan of the cover stylings for the Shadowhunter series. I prefer paperback, so my versions are a little bit different than the hardcover versions, but they're all gorgeous and the artwork is just so wonderful, and the Last Hours trilogy in particular seems to have especially gorgeous covers. So as this dropped, Cassandra Clare did confirm that with Chain of Gold having Cordelia on the cover and now Chain of Iron having our adorably lovely Lucy on the cover, that Chain of Thorns will indeed have Grace Blackthorn on the cover. So I have opinions about that, but we're gonna keep it going. Now the official synopsis. I'm gonna read the official synopsis. I'm going to read verbatim what Cassandra Clare released on her Instagram last week. Cordelia Carstairs seems to have everything she ever wanted. She's engaged to marry James Herondale, the boy she has loved since childhood. She has a new life in London with her best friend Lucy Herondale and James's charming companions, the Merry Thieves. She is about to be reunited with her beloved father, and she bears the sword Cortana, a hero's blade. But the truth is far grimmer. James and Cordelia's marriage is a lie, arranged to save Cordelia's reputation. James is in love with the mysterious Grace Blackthorn, whose brother, Jesse, died years ago in a terrible accident. Cortana burns Cordelia's hand when she touches it, while her father has grown bitter and angry. And a serial murderer is targeting the Shadowhunters of London, killing under cover of darkness, then vanishing without a trace. Together with the Merry Thieves, Cordelia, James, and Lucy must follow the trail of the knife-wielding killer through the city's most dangerous streets. All the while, each is keeping a shocking secret. Lucy, that she plans to raise Jesse from the dead, Cordelia, that she has sworn a dangerous oath of loyalty to a mysterious power, and James, that he is being drawn further each night into the dark web of his grandfather, the archdemon Belial, and that he himself may be the killer they seek. Okay, so that's the official synopsis, and that is a lot to unpack. So, little recap of what happened at the end of Chain of Gold. We finally find out that Belial is in fact Tessa's father, meaning that he is also James and Lucy's grandfather. We hadn't known before this book who Tessa's father was. In hindsight, there was actually an Easter egg as to his identity in the Shadowhunter anthology book, The Ghost of the Shadow Market, in the story Learn About Loss, where Jem, or Brother Zachariah, encounters Belial at a carnival in the 1930s. And in the course of the story, Jem discovers the Lost Herondale line, which leads to a huge subplot in the Dark Artifices series. We learn in this story that Belial actually owes Jem a debt, but we don't know what that debt is. And someone actually asked in the comments whether this debt is going to be referenced in this book, and according to Cassandra Clare, it is. So the fact that a Prince of Hell owes a silent brother a debt is huge. I'm not sure of the implications of that, but it has to be something huge. And if we remember at the end of Chain of Gold, Cordelia stabs Belial and it destroys the other realm that he had created, which means that he's not at his most powerful state, but being a Prince of Hell, he can obviously regenerate faster than a normal demon. And his goal in Chain of Gold was to lure James to him in order to take over his body so that he could walk among mortals. And that was actually Belalil's endgame all along, which is why he actually raped Tessa's mother, was so that he would be able to take human form. However, the necklace that contained ethereal protected Tessa, so he is forced to go after his own grandchildren because they are the only ones around. Now, the fact that James is aware that he is being essentially stalked by his grandfather and being pulled to this dark side with his demonic power makes him probably a harder target, which brings us to Lucy. I adored Lucy in Chain of Gold, loved her so much, and her powers of being able to communicate with ghosts is something that's extremely interesting, which now means I'll segue a bit into some little Easter eggs that are actually on the cover. So the two biggest things besides the gorgeousness of this cover was the fact that Lucy is holding the Blackthorn locket, which contained the last breath of Jessie Blackthorn, and she is also being surrounded by moths. Now, for anyone that's seen Silence of the Lambs, these moths are very distinct, and I do believe that there is a reason that they are on this cover. So I dug up a little research. Besides them being the Silence of the Lamb moths, I wanted to see if there was anything else that was of significance, and I found a lot of things. So bear with me while I throw some facts at you. The scientific name of these moths is the Kyriota atropos. In more layman's terms, they are usually referred to as death's head's hawk moth, and many cultures throughout history have actually associated them with being an omen for death. Now, while most moths tend to eat nectar, these ones are very different in that they prefer honey. To get honey, they just typically go in and enter the hives of bees, but in order to protect themselves, they produce a chemical that actually ends up soothing the bees, which I found very interesting. They also are one of the very few moth species that can make a squeaking noise. Others typically don't do that. So while those facts seem rather mundane, I couldn't help but notice that Lucy is wearing yellow. And as we found out, while James's power is that he's able to turn into a shadow and enter into the shadow realm, Lucy is able to see and communicate with ghosts freely, which while shadow hunters can see ghosts, they can't do what she can do. Herondales in general are able to visualize ghosts better than other families in the Shadowhunter universe, but Lucy's takes it to a whole new level. So the fact that these moths are associated with death, she's wearing yellow, I kind of get the sense, which is in the synopsis itself, is that we are probably going to see Lucy going into some sort of realm of the dead. We've seen shadow realms, we have seen hell, we've very barely glimpsed into the realm of the dead. While ghosts have come, we've never seen a shadow hunter essentially go to death and maybe come back, which is leading me to believe might be something that Lucy does, because her goal in this book, according to the synopsis, is that she is going to attempt to retrieve Jessie back from the dead. At the end of Chain of Gold, Jessie actually gives James Herondale his last breath in order to bring James back from the brink of death. Because of this, his spirit is no longer able to be fully formed. He was actually able to touch Lucy and have just a more overall corporeal form, and was very much unlike a normal type of ghost in this universe. All this was because Tatiana had his soul cut from his body, which is how he was able to live between realms. He's still around, but he's not nearly as strong as he was. So the fact that she has this locket, she's in this forest that's very like wispy and spooky, kind of leads me to believe we might see Lucy going into the ghost realm to retrieve him. Now, if we all know, at the end of Chain of Gold, as is referenced in the synopsis, James proposes to Cordelia as a way to save her reputation. Now, originally, I believe that this was in the hardcover flap for Clockwork Princess. There is an entire family tree of the Herondales, the Lightwoods, the Penhallows, the Fairchilds, all of these huge influential Shadowhunter families. And in it, we have James and Cordelia being married and having children. But now we also have Jessie and Lucy being married and having children. Now, once Chain of Gold dropped and that ending was revealed, Cassandra Clare said that that family tree is now no longer relevant, which destroyed many people after reading Chain of Gold, because we always assumed James and Cordelia are endgame. Now, the fact that they technically are married could make that false in a way. The real question now is, do Jesse and Lucy actually get married and have children? Is she able to succeed in her task? We do not know. However, through Lucy and Jesse's descendants, you get all the way down to Andrew Blackthorne, who is the father of Julian and Livy and Ty and Octavian and Drusilla Blackthorne. So they have to come from somewhere, because based on the family tree, Jesse is the only male Blackthorne, so he would be the only one that could still pass on that lineage and that name. So something has to happen in order for a Blackthorne to essentially have children. I'm not sure if the family tree being an accurate thing is just a red herring or it's actually true. If it was true, it would technically be huge spoilers for The Last Hours. So I'm assuming in some ways it is and is not true. I'm not sure. I'm just laying out the facts and the theories. Going back to that, this novel is called Chain of Iron. Now, I read Chain of Gold months ago, and so I don't remember the specifics of what the Blackthorne locket is made out of. It was obviously an enchanted object to be able to contain Jesse's last breath. So I was a nerd and decided to look up iron in folklore, and there were some pretty interesting facts. Iron is historically believed to repel, contain, or harm ghosts, witches, fairies, and other supernatural elements, usually ones that are negative. So I'm not sure what the chain of iron might actually be referring to. My theory is the chain of iron might actually be referring to the Blackthorne family locket. It might be a way, I don't want to say similar to a Pyxis, because I don't think in that way, but a similar way for Lucy to possibly be able to regain Jesse's soul and bring him back to life in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that she's holding it in the cover seems to have that kind of a significance. Again, this is all totally theory-based, though I know that this is not an accident with this cover. These are one of the few book series whose covers have a relation to what actually is going on in the book in some way, shape, or form. They're not just something that's thrown together in the studio, I don't feel. So, like I said, these are all theories. Another significant reveal in the synopsis was the fact that Cortana is now burning Cordelia's hand. What we know about Cortana is that it is an ancient sword passed down through the Carstairs family. Emma Carstairs is the current owner of it in the present day timeline, but it actually can choose its owner. So if you remember back all the way to the Infernal Devices series, Elias Carstairs is going to give Will Herondale Cortana because Jem ended up dying and becoming a silent brother, thus could not accept gifts, could not have children. Will flatly refuses for many reasons, one of them being that Jem is still alive and how dare you. Because Will and Jem are the greatest romance of all time in probably all of literature, in my opinion. Anyway, so Tessa tells Elias to keep it in case that he has his own children, he could pass it down to them, which Elias ends up having Alistair and Cordelia. So while he was deciding which of his children would be able to actually own Cortana, they kind of came up with their own arguments for it. Alistair was kind of the pig and argued that because he would always be a Carstairs, even in marriage, it needed to stay in the Carstairs family and belong to his family, which is a dumb reason, though Elias did kind of agree to that. Cordelia's argument was the fact that she wanted to be a hero and felt that Cortana would make her a merciful one. So while Elias was going to end up giving it to Alistair, the sword actually flew out of Alistair's hand and into Cordelia's, basically making her its owner. Because of the powers that were embedded in it, I believe it does have an angel feather within it. It kind of does have a mind of its own in some ways. So the fact that it is now burning her hand, basically meaning that she's unworthy to own it, is very interesting. There is the fact that she swears an allegiance to some sort of force that we don't know what that is. Because at the end of Chain of Gold, her only issues were mainly with James, and Cortana still worked. So I'm not sure if whatever she swore allegiance to might have something to do with her relationship with James and wanting to make it a legitimate relationship, because she does love him And the dummy does love her. However, he is under a spell with the bracelet that Grace Blackthorn had given him. So I'm not sure if the magic she swore to was either demonic in nature, fae in nature. I mean, no one knows. But I'm assuming it might have something to do with that and her current situation and wanting to make this year-long marriage that she signed up for actually last and be real, because she does love him and he does love her. But again, the family tree is not accurate. So who really knows? I don't know. The synopsis and this cover kind of leave a lot of questions in the air about what is going to happen in this series. Now, when this series was announced and Cassandra Clare was still writing it, she did say that it is kind of a very loose retelling adaptation of Great Expectations, which makes sense in that James is very much a Pip and Grace is very much an Estella. Things don't end very well for either of them, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because right now I'm not a fan of Grace Blackthorn. I don't trust her, and it's partially because of her upbringing with Tatiana, but partially because there's something with her. She has some sort of powers that we don't know about yet, which I'm assuming if she's on the cover of Chain of Thorns, we'll get more fleshed out with that. That's something to keep in mind, because the Mortal Instruments series went through a lot but ended very happily. The same with the Infernal Devices. The Dark Artifices more so had a bittersweet type of an ending, because we are leading to the end game, which is going to be the Wicked Powers. So I'm not 100% sure that this may be a trilogy that will end super happily. I want it to, but based on what's happened, the kind of darker tone I feel that this has, even compared to the Infernal Devices, and the loosely based origin, I'm just not sure. I want it to be happy. I want James and Cordelia to be happy. I want Jesse and Lucy to be happy. I want everyone to be happy. But again, I'm not sure that's going to happen, or it will happen in a way that's very satisfying, because we've had a lot of happy endings in the Shadowhunter universe and we kind of are overdue. Just saying. So I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of deep theory dive into what Chain of Iron might be about. Like I said, these are all theories, but I've included information as I've read it that was considered official information by Cassandra Clare herself. Other things are my own theories or own kind of research. If you guys have any more theories that I may have missed, that you have thought of, may have remembered, because there are so many books in this series that you can dig and dig and dig and find Easter eggs everywhere, please leave them down below. I'd also love if you would like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel and bring you guys some fun content, and I hope you guys have been enjoying it. I receive lovely comments from so many of you, and I'm so thankful, but I would love to expand this community. So thank you so much. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. The cover for Chain of Gold. No, she did not. She did that years ago. The sword actually flew out of Alistair's hand and is being drawn further each night into the dark web of